You're welcome to Zlc Live Podcast once again. And I hope you also enjoyed the one you watched yesterday. My name is Ojelabi Blessing Eniola, and we are live once again. With me is,
Popola Peter Ayojesu.
and yes, guess what? We have our host here. His name goes with Nurse,
Peter Labi to be precise.
and we are so glad to have him here. He's our zonal prayer coordinator. You can be sure that you will receive a lot. So I want you to be attentive even as we receive. Yeah, the topic for today is recognizing our identity as light. So straight to the first question, sir. How can we recognize our identity as light?
All right, thank you very much for that question. It's a privilege to be here, and I do not take it for granted at all. Maybe by definition, let me bring let's give light a definition. I would say light is an ambience, an atmosphere that gives an expression, that makes the possibilities of God, that gives an expression to the possibilities of God. If you carefully look at Genesis 1, God did not motion to create anything until there was light. The implication of that is that before God begins to do so much in a man's life, there must first be an emergence of light. So light is like an atmosphere. It's the very first thing that the Lord ignites or makes happen in a man's life before he begins to bring certain things to bear. So I say again, light is an ambience that gives an expression to the possibilities of God. So in the same vein, if we do a flip-flop, we can say darkness is a civilization that is void of God. So light gives an expression. It makes a platform available for the possibilities of God to find expression. Now, recognizing our identity as light, we must first come to play. We must come to terms with James chapter 1 and verse 17. Scripture says, every good and perfect thing comes from the Father of light, in whom there is no variableness or shadow of turning. The implication of that is that if we must first be identified as light, we must first be identified with the Father of light. The very beginning of we identifying ourselves as light is recognizing and identifying ourselves with Him. That is the Father of light. The Father of God is our God. So the implication of that is our relationship with God is a germane thing. Our relationship with God, not just as Lord now, but as Father, is like the foundation of we coming to place, coming to recognizing, coming to identifying ourselves with light. That is one. Number two, we cannot sustain our recognition as light if we are not giving attention to that which the light has made available. Scripture made us understand in 1 John chapter 1 verse 16. He said, and the word became flesh. And because the word became flesh, men could relate with it. Men could relate with it. The implication of that now is that there is that which the Lord, the Father of light, has given to us, that provided we give attention to it, will perpetually be light. And of course, there is no two way about that, and it is the book of light, the book of the law, the book of instruction. Provided we give attention to that which is written in that book of the Lord, every day of our life, we ourselves as vessels will be a platform, will be a vessel with which the Lord, the expressions, the possibilities of God can actually find expression. Wow. Those things are very important.
Wow. Thank you so much. That is a very fantastic answer. Thank you so much. That is very deep. I'm thinking about something that I think there are challenges we face. Maybe try to shine as light, in a world that is very dark, that is very full of crooked and corruption. So what are those challenges that we face when we try to shine as light, and how do you think we can overcome those challenges? How do you think we can overcome them, sir?
All right, thank you very much. I think it's very important that we establish that the foremost hobby of light is shining. Anywhere you see light, it will shine.
Definitely.
So a light that is not shining is not light. In fact, there are two characteristics of light. Light shines and light attracts. Light shines and it attracts. It shines and it attracts. The implication of that is, in a world that is the number one challenge. Now, darkness is not a challenge to light. Scripture made us understand. He said, and the light appeared, and the darkness could not comprehend it. Darkness can never be a challenge to light. We just need to establish that. Now, what are the things that can now, because light, the intensity of light is increased by giving attention to the word of light. The challenges we can face as light. Let's give a kind example. A kind example is like, you remember back in those days when we actually have fitila, lantern. We have lantern, fitila, I know. Provided there is fuel in that lantern, the light will keep shining. The implication of that is now, the relatability factor in that is, when there is no fuel to help the light to continue shining, to help the light to keep it shining, there will not be an expression of that which the light actually has come to play as purpose in the first place. So if there is no fuel, there cannot be light. And where the scriptures made us understand, he said, where there is no wood, the fire is put out. And we all know that there are two things that fire gives. Fire gives light and gives heat. Now, fire gives light and gives it. The implication of that now is that when there is no fuel, we say where there is no wood, the fire will be put out. And the wood which we are made to understand, according to Leviticus chapter 6, 12-3, he said, let the fire never be taken away from your altar, but it must keep burning. And how will it keep burning? He said, add wood to it. The wood is provided we continue to give attention to the word that is light. Our light will not be dim. Our light will continue. And that fuel is that word of the Lord. In fact, something recently struck me during the last session. A man is more powerful when he's under authority.
Yes. During the prayer session.
A man is more powerful when he's under authority. A man is more powerful when he's under authority. The implication of that is that if you are living your life according to the dictate of the book of light, according to the dictate of the book of the law, the darkness is no match for light. In fact, it is an insult if you say darkness is the opposite of light. It is an insult. Darkness cannot be opposite. Because where light is, darkness does not have a place. So if we must surmount the challenge that one of the foremost challenge of light is that there is no fuel to draw from to continue burning. And if the light, the individual, a man that has become learner, because Scripture made us understand that we're the light of the world, provided that man we give attention to where fuel is poured, that light will continue to shine.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that wonderful answer. Dear online viewers, I hope you are following and taking note of these beautiful points. Sir, the last question I would love to ask is, understanding that we are light, how can we channel this understanding into our daily life, our work, our community, and even people around us?
We earlier mentioned that everywhere light goes, it shines. Now, light is in degrees. Light is in degrees. Light is in degrees. In fact, we should have mentioned this when we were talking about challenges, but it's not a problem. Now, going about that, we understand that anywhere light is, there will be shining. Anywhere light is, there will be attraction. Now, what we must give kind attention now to is that every space has a demand. In fact, we must understand that every atmosphere has what it carries. If a man enters into an atmosphere and a man is not without goal, is not without a vision, such man will become a puppet in that atmosphere. That is why a man can actually enter into an atmosphere where there is so much activities of the flesh, and the man unknowingly will start discovering that the activities of the flesh in his space is becoming heightened. So the implication of that is that if a man must go to his different space, a different speed, a different atmosphere, and must continue to shine. A man shines. For example, now look at this light, and this light is actually shining red because there is a coating of red that is effulging light. The light is in response to that which has formed it. If this light that we are seeing now, if there's an undercoat of yellow, what we're actually going to see is yellow light. If this thing is coated with blue, what we're actually going to see is blue light. So if a man must actually shine regardless of the space, number one, such man must understand the dictate of that space, and number two, that dictate must be submerged. That dictate must be submerged under the dictate of the Him who is the Father of light. So having the man committed himself to the book of the law, the man must give attention also to prayers. Now prayer, because what prayer does, apart from prayer generating light, prayer keeps Now, light shines, light attracts. One thing we must also understand that especially when it's in relation with fire, fire keeps away from things. It keeps away. Fire keeps away. It keeps away. It keeps the intruder away. Fire keeps the things that are not. So, and it also ultimately preserves. So, if you must go in around our spaces as men and children of light, we must, number one, be as men under authority. Number two, we must give our attention to the dictate of that environment so that we can respond accordingly. And number three, we must be men and women of prayer so that regardless of the darkness, regardless of the space, we are shining.
Thank you so much, sir. We are really honored to have you, and we are pleased. Also, our online viewers, we are also honored to have you. Now we're switching back to the main program. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.